So ALU does training for both MBA students and undergraduate students. The two campuses in Mauritius and in Kigali do undergraduate training, so we offer bachelor's degrees at both of those campuses, but our business school is exclusively in Kigali. And Rwanda has been so excellent for us. It's a really fantastic place for our MBA students to come, to see what Rwanda looks like, to see, in some cases, Rwanda for the first time, and to really see how things are working here.
So we had 48 students graduating this past weekend. Tell us a bit about the program, but also where are the students coming from? You said some of them, it's their first time seeing Kigali.
Absolutely. So our students come from more than a dozen countries all across the continent. And what they're doing is coming here 6 times over the course of a 2-year program. And for the other times that they're in the program, they're actually studying at home. The unique thing about this program is it allows them to get a full MBA degree without having to leave their jobs, without having to leave their families.
Right.
And that allows much more diversity in the classroom. So this is, in some cases, the first time that they've been to Rwanda, but they've come 6 times over the past 2 years for a week each time. And I can tell you they've been so impressed.
Awesome. So where are the teachers coming from? Where are some of the professors around from? How does that work?
So I'm actually from the US. I come in, I spend at least 8 weeks a year in Rwanda, but I spend the rest of my time traveling around the continent looking for cases, writing cases. Our other professors are coming from all over the world. We're really looking for the best professors from all over the world, but making sure that we have a lot of people who are either Africans who have been doing business in Africa and have been really successful in their fields, or who are professors who understand emerging markets, who understand Africa. One of the ideas is to give our students both a global perspective and a uniquely African and Pan-African perspective.
Right. In what other ways do you sort of equip them after they finish their MBA? How do you equip them to kind of get out there and start becoming the leaders that you want them to be?
Well, one of the things about an MBA program is the networks. So our students come to us specifically because they're looking for a Pan-African network. Obviously, there are other schools that they could go to which are closer to home in many cases, but they would get a more regional network. And so for our students looking to work all across the continent, they start out coming here, they meet people, they learn about the entire continent, and then they're able to take those networks home with them so that they can go back, and if they want to do business in, let's say, Nigeria or Zimbabwe or South Africa, they know who to call. And so we really spend a lot of time both introducing them to potential employers. We have a graduate program for that sort of thing to pair employers and MBA students, but we're really, really encouraging them to network with one another, and we as a school help them do that.
Right. So they kind of, they have their networks, they're doing their thing. You said that this is the second graduating class from the MBA program. Have you kept up with the first class, and are they involved in any way in this one that just finished?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we have a number of students who have been going on and doing what we call the capstone project, which is an entrepreneurial project that they do at the end of the MBA program. A number of our students have really pushed forward with the ones that they did at the end of last year. The graduates from last year, they've really been pushing forward, and they've really been developing a number of amazing businesses, including some in Rwanda. And we've had a number of students, a number of alumni join us at the graduation. And we actually have some students who are coming back to assist in teaching our students as they become more and more expert in their fields.
Oh, that's great. So I want to know, what do you project, or what kind of impact do you project that these students are going to have on the economy across the continent, here in Rwanda, globally, because I know that's part of the mission as well? How do you see them really affecting the economy?
Well, as you mentioned, one of the goals at ALU is to create 3 million leaders and to create essentially 3 million jobs. Right. So one of the things that we're doing with our students is charging them with going out, and whether it's within their existing company, within their existing firm, or by creating a new company or firm, really thinking about how to create jobs on the continent and how to create economic growth on the continent. Each of our students at the end of this program, just before they graduated, was charged with creating 1,300 jobs, and they actually took that charge and they said, you know what, let's make 2,000 jobs. So one of the things that they're going out to do is thinking either directly or indirectly by creating, again, entrepreneurial ventures, or by working in big, either African or multinational firms. How do we create jobs for young Africans, but also how do we make sure that we're doing business well on the continent, and that we're thinking about how business can really move from Africa, and African businesses can move into the global economy to really structure the global economy in the way that we see in Africa, with the sort of innovation, the sort of African values that we know the global economy would actually really benefit from.
Right. We see the economy, especially in Africa, changing so much all of the time, skipping a lot of steps along the way as well. How often are you changing and keeping up with the curriculum?
Oh, we change the curriculum all the time. We're always looking for things which will allow us to push the students, to show them the next best thing in terms of the research, but also we need to develop our own curriculum. We need to develop our own teaching materials because there isn't as much about Africa as there should be.
Right.
So one of the things that I actually do personally is I've been writing a number of cases on both leadership in Africa and business in Africa. One of the things I was really privileged to do last year was to attend Rwanda's National Leadership Retreat, and I wrote a case about that, and the president actually came and spoke to the students last year. His Excellency actually taught a case to the students on the National Leadership Retreat last year at graduation. And we've really been trying to build this library of cases so that the students have African cases that they can come to instead of just reading about cases elsewhere in the world.
Right. What do we expect to see from ALU coming up? Because we know that, started out in Mauritius, it's here in Kigali now. Are we looking for more campuses around the continent?
Well, I'm not going to speak on our growth around the continent. We have been doing a number of things to try and create an ecosystem of education from top to bottom. So at the very top is our MBA program, and as our dean described them, they're the Ferraris. So these guys, what we're doing is really intensively teaching them to be leaders, to make a lot of jobs, and to really shape the organization of business on the continent. We also, as I mentioned, have our undergraduates who are in Rwanda and Kigali, but then we also have a number of programs called ALX, which is a shorter non-degree leadership program which we've tested out and which we've been running in Nairobi, but which we're hoping to expand across the continent as we go. So we're certainly looking to go both up across the spectrum in terms of the sorts of degrees and non-degree programs that we're offering, but obviously when you're trying to educate this many people across the continent,
Sure.
we have to think about exactly how we're going to grow.
Before I let you go, I want to know, how did you get to the number that you decided, 3 million? How did you get to that number?
Well, if you think about the number of jobs that Africa needs over the course of the rest of our lives, actually, we have the largest youth population. We're about to have the largest workforce in the world. One of the things that we have to do is we have to absorb that workforce. And so in order to absorb that workforce, we were really thinking about exactly how we individually can do that. And so if you take the numbers that we're looking at in terms of the workforce in about 30 years' time, and in fact, even in just 6,000 days, then if you think about how each one of us could contribute to that, then 3 million for ALU seemed like the right number. And that puts us down to about, let's say, again, our students thought of 2,000 jobs each. So that's a challenge for them. And obviously, some of our students are well on their way. One of our Rwandan students already employs 1,000 people here in Rwanda. So this is something which we want it to be challenging for them, but we also want it to be something that we know that they can do.